Y'all are standing up today, man. I need to.
Oh yeah.
Only time I stand up.
I'll need
I'm
to like
very bad.
unwire my whole desk or rewire my whole desk to use the standing
I mean,
functionality
it
in
took
it.
me,
been a
Jackie, you've
bit.
done it actually pretty quick. It took me a good, I think 8 years, nine, maybe, yeah, 8 years before I got wireless.
Mm,
Oh,
Had to build another house.
yeah.
you
It
had to
took a
build another
while.
house. Oh my,
Took a while.
because I have my. Yeah, that's a lot of work. I don't know if I'll do that.
And now my goal is just to make it through every day without spilling my coffee. I'm going to have to get a sippy cup.
You know what,
Uh,
Kevin? Of the 3 drinks on my desk, they all have tops because I am way too paranoid for that.
If
So
all of our calls were recorded with builders, there would be an amazing blooper reel at like the end of every month.
Could you imagine? That'd be so
I've
much
only
fun.
had to replace my keyboard twice magically, but
It's not bad.
usually once a week it goes flying.
that's when you go, I don't know what that noise was. Let's keep
Oh
going.
no, they all. No, I'm complete. I'm just like that. Just a
Beep.
second.
You're like, where's my sense? Where's my AI to detect when I say a curse word and bleep it out for me?
Yeah, when's AI gonna just prevent that from happening? The cup should avoid my hand. Let's get on that.
It seems fair.
Priorities, first world priorities.
Yeah.
Welcome to episode 279. I'm Kevin Oakley, and with me today is the ad doctor Andrew Peak and Jackie Lipinski.
Hey, gang.
Nice to be here. How's everybody doing?
What a month April was.
Yeah, it's gone already. We're halfway through the year. Even though
But
it's May.
everyone is so much happier. We were talking on our call
Yeah.
as a team earlier that everyone's just happier. And is it because the weather is improving, or is it because people are smashing those sales goals and just loving even the builders who aren't maybe hitting the volume profitability wise? They're just like, Kevin, we're printing money on every house we sell. So it's pretty cool to see, especially considering how the year started in that first week of January and how the fourth quarter was. And now, yeah, we'll talk about it now. Now what's really crazy is the comps for the rest of the year are going to be incredible. So,
Yeah.
you know, if you're watching the video version from Homebuilder Data, this dramatic slide in lead volume that occurred in 2022, beginning, again, remember, basically at the kickoff of the Super Bowl, all the way down until the bottom of June. Well, our comps have been better, than that period since May. So, like, marketers, if you're listening, everyone is going to be talking about how lead volume they're going to be pleasantly surprised or happy. And if they're not, you now have this ability to just switch the comparison period to last year, and it's going to look great.
It's been a while since we could do that.
It's been a while, like 2.5 years since we've been able to say that, you know, yeah, it's going to be great comp period. And so I would expect a lot of positive headlines about home builders that are public, et cetera, of people being, it's just good comps help. But remember, the recency bias says the last year also kind of doesn't matter. But the good news there, for those of you who saw the chart, really since February 16th, lead volume and traffic volume have been nationally remarkably steady. Which means that we can already kind of think about the fact that May is going to be a great month for especially those of you who have finished inventory, and June's likely going to roll into being a great month as well because those people are looking now as well. So, like we talked about, I don't know, 4 months ago, the summer months might well be a continuation of the spring selling season for builders because there's just no inventory to be had.
I was going to say, do you think it's inventory on the resale side is non-existent? That might be aggressive word to use, but let's just say non-existing or not improving. And then do you think people are getting just kind of used to what the rates are? Like it's not like there's no longer hopes and dreams of like, it's going back down to 4.5. It's going back down to 4.5, even though some builders they have incentives to bring you down that way, but they're just used to seeing, all right, it's 6 something. Cool.
Yeah. I saw an interesting Twitter.
And they still have the rent either way. You're renting or you're buying. And if your rent is $2,800, or you could buy something and you're at $2,200 and you own it. Well, that sounds better. $600 more if that's your personal scenario. Like that's still a better setup, and that's yours. It's like that forced savings account, building equity in your home.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, I think it was on Twitter or LinkedIn. John Burns said something interesting. He goes, I like to start all of my talks by asking everyone in the room to raise their hand if they, what's the first question? It was something about like, have thought about moving in the last 2 years, but haven't. And then it was like, how many of you still plan to move? And everyone's hand. But basically the point is like, unless you have to move. So I think that's more, I know a lot of the narrative from other folks in the industry is like people have just gotten used to interest rates.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe, but I think the bigger thing is just that the lag effect of people who have been waiting and waiting and waiting, at some point, people can't wait any longer. It's like that baby's been in the bassinet in your room going on a year and a half, and you want the kid
tight
somewhere else, or you took that job that you've been thinking about taking and now you have to relocate, or they called you back in the office. I think to me, that's more of what it is. Because again, the numbers aren't great. The number, like comparatively speaking, we're still down. Like again, traffic is off the charts, but lead volume, Q1 compared to Q1 of 21 is like 40% of what it was in 2021. So it's not that it's that the leads that are coming through have high intent and high urgency and high pain that they're trying to solve because they can't delay it any longer.
I just jumped off a call and they're doing a $10,000 incentive. And she's like, I'll be honest with you. I don't know if it's moving the needle. She's like, she's like, I see it more as a sales tool for the salespeople to feel confident following up with their leads or having that conversation of, look what I can do for you. But she's like, in terms of, is it something that people are like, oh, okay, I'm jumping off the bench because that $10,000 incentive, or just, oh, that's nice. That's also, I think, a conversation that's happening. And I'm seeing more and more builders maybe even saying like, oh, because things are going well, we're going to pause incentives until we need to bring them back.
Or shifting them to new builds versus inventory. In this case, the builder you're talking about, because I was on the first half of that call, smashed their April sales number and already are 80% of the way there for their May sales number.
Wow.
As of
good for them.
May 10th. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Like, yeah, take that stuff away.
Yeah.
Like anything, we've all had kids or have kids who may or may not have used pacifiers, but like pacifiers have a purpose. Don't let your sales team have the pacifier when they're still 6 years old. That's weird.
Eventually, yep. It's got to come out, right? Is that good?
And guess what happens? This is why I love analogies. Guess what happens when you take that thing away? They act irrational and they cry and they kick. I mean, you can fire them if they do that, but
it's
sales teams are
right?
like, and don't take away the pacifier, please.
Yeah.
But what are you going to try to take it away in December? That sounds like a bad time to take away the pacifier.
Yeah. Agreed.
So, all right, on to story time.
Story time.
I can start us off here.
Okay, yeah, go.
My husband's company is large and they provide their employees with, hey, if you want to do LinkedIn posts, here are some posts that you can have as like a template. And yeah, where it's nice is like, let's get a voice out. But I also think a problem occurs where it becomes an echo chamber of feeling comfortable within this marketing box. And so my husband, being a recruiter, he's like, I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I'm at all day, every day. And I was like, yeah, your posts are boring me. I was like, I'll be honest, I'm not going to pay attention to them. They, you're talking about really great things your company is doing, but nothing's coming from the heart. And so he's like, all right, fine, I'll do a from the heart post. So 2 days ago, he posted and he went viral and he's like, well, I have you to blame. All he did was take a picture of the view on Wednesday, where they call work from work Wednesdays, and just say why he loves the view and it's his favorite part. And now he's had 30,000 impressions, 500 interactions. He said 50 people have connected with him over it. People were commenting now, wanting to interact with his company, but it just kind of spiraled into, when you're unique and when you have a different perspective and when you kind of burst out of that little corporate box of what's comfortable, it's, I think, more personality and personable marketing that is more unique, brings more value to the table. And I would also say that to builders too. And I know Beth and I will send each other Instagram videos of builders that we, like, oh, this is beautiful, or oh, someone's just riding their bike through this community. That personalized element of that the builder can utilize or lean on their team sometimes is a really great out of the box creative content thinking that you can just like make sure to like, you don't have to have a tight leash when thinking too much about your marketing sometimes. So that would be my recommendation and story time.
Nice. We need to see said post.
Oh gosh, did you find it?
Oh yeah, of course I did.
His last name is Lipinski.
Right, not hard to find. I think there's lots of interesting things in here too. The image itself is a cool image. If you know anyone from Seattle, I know a few.
Just some Zillow.
Maybe a few dozen people from Seattle. They love them some pictures of their mountains. They love pictures of the sound. They love, like, it's their Golden Gate Bridge kind of shot, and so it is the right image too. I think that's interesting about it as well to me. Like, it's, if you've never been to Seattle, you'd be like, that looks cool. What is that? So it has, I mean, you can say luck, but he did like check all the boxes.
Well, I have a builder who has, they're building a new community and they're like, yeah, these lots go up against a golf course and there's mountain views. What do you think? And we're like, do you have photos of all the 10 houses for the views from the backyard? And they're like, oh, no, we don't. We're like, that's just a great little, like, wait for a beautiful day, get a photographer out there, make sure to have that content ready of what's your unique perspective of each home. And then, make sure to do even social posts. And it's not always about the home. Sometimes it's about the lifestyle. Sometimes it's about the benefits of a community, and just kind of pushing that. Because he's not really talking about his company, and he's like, my husband, and he got a ton of interactions.
I know I overboard index on stuff, but this, I'm going to show it again here for those of you watching the video, because again, everything is right. People are commenting, he's replying, so they understand there's a conversation to be had. And then the company itself didn't say, shame on you for creating your own thing. The company is commenting, probably reposting. Slalom's not a small organization, right? So that's a huge audience. And then again, it's some of this is confirmation bias, but people are talking about the view, which is like everyone in Seattle is like, yay, more of that. We love that. That's why we're here. It's like here you go into any grocery store and they're selling all these shirts that say Ohio on the front. And if you're not from Ohio, like, who would want to wear a shirt with Ohio on it? So I think it's just well done, Matt, and good push, Jackie.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
But also, like, for those of you listening, it's not like just zig when they're zagging without being strategic, and you're going to go viral.
It almost seems like that post lets you participate, or like it's like for some it fills their ego, like, here's my view, and it's like, well, you're also in a cool building too. I'm over here in my office in Seminole, Florida, with no mountain views, and I have a pond in the back, so I'm not posting mine because I get no ego lift out of that. So then they have those people. Then it's like also other organizations that are techy. There's so many different angles that people are commenting or interaction for. It's beautifully crafted. It's perfect.
Perfect.
Yep.
Yeah. Whether all those things were thought out, like, oh, this is this, probably not, but it ended up working out that way, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. Andrew?
Yeah, this is the opposite for the most part. So went down to where there's new homes where I'm at. I'm in the Tampa market. They are over the bridge. So they're in Hillsborough, Pasco, Sarasota, all these counties, tons and tons of new communities. So I went and visited a friend. They had a housewarming party on Saturday. And they're in a bigger community, and I could say names because everyone knows them. MI, Meritage, Ryan, and two other bigger builders are in this community. Like, so it's a big community. Never been there. I've seen their floor plan, seen pictures of the updates. Beautiful home, looks great. It's like starter and a half home. I don't know. It's like 2,200 feet, 4-bedroom, 3-bath. But it's not the move up. It's not fancy by any means, but it's still nice and clean, 9-foot ceilings, all that. But I pull into the neighborhood and I assume the metrics. I'm just thinking like the marketer, like, why is this community not selling? Why is it not selling? I'm looking at the metrics and it's hitting all these numbers. As soon as I pull in, Lindsay, my wife, she's with me. We're like, oh, this is weird. Like there would seem to be no continuity between the floor plans, the elevations, and there was like two floor plans that were just so terrible. Is that it? And I never really talk about
They just
product
didn't have a
design.
good like
It
elevation.
was a box, like legit a box, which is fine because that's probably the most efficient way to have the most amount of square feet.
Yeah.
There's no wasted space anywhere. Like your feet are against the interior, exterior wall, and then like it's right there. It's not like there's this setback into it or they're just cut out, whatever it may be. But you see that floor plan like every like 8 houses, and it sticks out so bad. And then the yards weren't being maintained well. I'm sure the HOA, there's only I think 30 some odd houses finished in the community, and it's a big community. So I'm sure the enforcement, all that stuff is not there. But I'm like, oh my goodness, if I went to the website, like we talked about a few weeks ago, you go to the website, you're like, I think I like this. I think I like this. I'll just drive out on my own and check it out. Like it's on the way home, whatever. You pull into this thing, you're like, oh, that's a whole different ball game. Like then I have to make this choice of like, well, the price fits our budget. It's amazing value. But this is like a pretty ugly neighborhood. Like,
well, it's like the real life version of what we talk about with the market proof algorithm. If you're getting a lot of appointments and no sales, you can't just say, well, the salesperson isn't doing their job.
Right.
Because if you don't go back and inspect product presentation, in this case, you're talking about the entire community, but it could be the model. You know, I jokingly, when I talk about this, I'm like, maybe the whole model home smells like salmon because that's what the salesperson eats every day. And you walk in and you're just like, get me out of here. Who knows what it is, but someone has to go out there and inspect how the community feels. And that would be...
It felt bad. Right. And the homes were like mid 300s to mid 400s, which fits the budget down there. Let's
play the game. Let's play the game.
2,500-ish a month, depending on the down payment. So
we'll use the award music. Let's play the game.
I like
fix this community presentation. So, because let's pretend like you're a marketer and you walk into this situation, like it's your first day on the job, and they're like, "Hey, go fix Summerwood." What would you do, or what would you talk about?
If I looked at that scenario, like we looked at the numbers, we have a lot of leads, and say low, we have a fair amount of appointments, but then nothing is selling.
So, or you just drive by and you're like,
oh, I drive by. Oh no, oh geez, that is daunting. I feel like we'd have to push value because I might be biased because that's why this person moved down there but they're commuting. Yeah. But that same square footage where I'm at over the bridge, quote over the bridge, high 500s, low 600s. So it's very valued for the same home, not like a lesser home. Like the exact same home would be that much where I'm at, 30 minutes north. But I guess we could. I'm not sure technically how it would work, but if the HOA enforcement on just the yard quality would be there, that would make a huge difference. Like you pull in and like all the houses were just not maintaining their yards. So you're like, oh geez, this is a brand new community and this is what it already looks like. Ugh, that's so bad. Like
congratulations everyone. And the first 15 home sites you get free, True Green treatments for the first year. Which some builders do that. They'll package in on like the entry way into a community, like weed and feed programs for the first year, just to make sure that those lawns are good. It reminds me too of there was one neighborhood in Pittsburgh where the entry to the community was through a 30-year-old neighborhood, which had multiple cars on blocks that you had to drive through to get to this brand new neighborhood.
Oh my!
Where the average price of the home would be double or potentially even triple what most of those homes would sell for. And we actually, we knocked on those doors and we said, we would like to buy that car on blocks. Can we buy it, please? Yeah. And we would yank it out with a...
Yeah. I'm going to quote you. You don't like quoting yourself. What do you say? You say you don't have problems if you have enough money.
Yeah,
so
right.
There you go. If you have $2,000 for this car, 3, 5, 10, whatever it may be, to fix that person's house, you know what? Do you need your yard maintained for a little bit? How about the next year it's on us?
Yeah, now for every action, there's a consequence or a reaction. So the other thing you could do is you could go in and say, we would love to gift you an additional street tree or two.
Yes.
We would there are things that can be done. Now you got to be careful how you do that. So everyone else isn't like, why didn't I get it? But again, that's why some builders just have this kind of program of the entry home sites have some additional piece, or, we would incentivize at Heartland back in the day. We would say, we know that like you're kind of at your budget limit and you have an elevation A. We'd like to, instead of the cost to go to elevation B being $15,000, we'll give it to you for $2,500. Like, just please pick it so that these homes look better.
That makes sense.
Or in extreme case, we would just say you have to do a non-standard elevation.
I like that. One thing I
included in the lot premium.
I forgot about now. I don't know if it aided in me going like, ooh, this community, like not so great, is like almost diagonally across the street to the entrance is a Del Webb community called Bayview. And their monument sign out front, beautiful. I'm like, is this Vegas or something? Like, what's going on here? Like water features with the lights and like, so you're just like, that's luxury, or that's well taken care of. That's clean, safe, all these things. And then you turn right to go into this other community and you're like, oh, what's happening here? Like, I think I want to live over there. What's going on?
I'm going to try to see if I can find this community. I think this is where it is. Stonehill Drive and Niguel Road in California. We were on our way. I was on my way to the Builder 100, which is at the Ritz-Carlton. Not a bad place to go. And I'm in the Uber and we're parked on Stonehill Drive, getting ready to turn on Niguel Road. And there's a community entrance monument there with a giant, like Disney-esque tree.
Okay.
That's just very large. Like, it looks like it had been there for a long time. And my first reaction was like, that's incredible that they have like this stun entry feature, and it just happened they could save that tree, and it just works with the view from the coast out the, and then I keep looking at the tree and I'm like, is that real?
Is that real?
Because I actually don't think it is real. The leaves are kind of fluttering just slightly different than maybe they should. Like, how does that? And then, my takeaway was most people wouldn't stare at it the way that I'm staring at it. But you look at it and you're just like, I want to ask the Uber driver to pull over and let me take a picture of that because it looks too perfect. Which led me to believe that it must be too perfect. Wait, I'm in California, the land of
money.
Like, just make something fake to look better. Sorry, Californians.
Movie props.
But like, at the end of the day, they made the right call. Because it was like something, it wasn't Serengeti-like, but it was just like that perfect tree, perfect shape, perfect backdrop. Meanwhile, a car is driving 1 foot away from it and somehow the roots haven't died. You know, like,
like, this is too good to be true, but I'll take it. Maybe after a while living there, you're like, yeah, that's the fake tree.
Average sales price there is probably, $3 million and up. So fake tree, not a big deal.
Yeah, not a big deal at all. Oh my, what do you got, Kevin?
My story time comes from a conversation that I had with I don't like these words when they're used, but I don't know what else to use. Like a branding genius. And he's agreed to come speak at the Online Sales and Marketing Summit in Dallas in September, of which there are now just a handful of general admission tickets left, and then we'll be done. So, like, we're talking less than 12, I think, remaining. So I'm talking to him about what he's going to talk about, and we're talking about branding, and we'll reveal who he is on all the socials. You'll see it, and it's going to be fantastic. But he's like, Kevin, I don't believe in the concept of a personal brand. And I said, that's very interesting. Tell me more about that. He goes, well, everyone's just a human. And he's like, a brand is really a set of rules that a company is going to live by and stand by. And it's limiting yourself. It's saying, I'm not going to use these other 99 colors in the rainbow or 97 colors because these 3 colors are mine. It's all about limitations on yourself. He goes, so the idea of a personal brand is made up by somebody trying to sell a course or something, because you're a human, which means tomorrow you could decide to go do something completely different. Like, you're talking about reputation, not personal brand. And
there we go.
we had a 30-minute conversation on the phone. It went all different directions. It was awesome. But what I took away from that as an interesting thing is, like, the concept of a personal brand for myself. I was going through this checklist while we were talking. I'm like, okay, well, new home marketing, pancakes. And then I stopped at pancakes because it was really clear to me that he was spot on. Because it's almost like a helpful thing for people to get to know me. They don't know what else to talk about. They can talk about pancakes. Like I'm consistent in certain things that I talk about that aren't new home marketing related, because it helps people in their own brain for their purpose kind of create an image of what Kevin is. And so they can know me and have a conversation with me about pancakes when we meet in person. The discipline part of that comes down to, and I said, I like anything with maple syrup on it, if I'm being honest. Like breakfast is just the best meal of the day. It should be eaten at any time. But because of this concept of, no, I have a personal brand, I will not eat a waffle in public. Certainly not anywhere where I think someone from our industry is going to see me or someone I know.
Shame upon your name.
Right. But it's this idea of, yeah, I've unintentionally limited myself. Now I know it's fully intentional. But I just said I can't eat waffles in public, even though my wife makes them, because it's just easier for her to throw the stuff in the griddle and make it. Just as an interesting idea of branding equaling discipline versus you just deciding that you're going to stand for something. It's almost easier to wipe away the stuff that you're saying we're not going to do. No.
That reputation word, I think I must associate reputation with
hold on.
Much more than brand. Kevin ran away. In case anyone's wondering. Kevin said, okay, come on.
Okay.
There we go. And he's back.
So Matt Sauls, thank you, Matt, sent me this Seth Godin action figure that he got from PCBC, I think, like 10 or 12 years ago. And in it comes a little book of marketing secrets written by Seth. And I love this one.
That is a little book. It's like 2 inches by 2 inches.
Yeah.
Okay.
Marketing secret number 12. It's the last one. Would you put your name on it? If you wouldn't, don't do it, because your name is on it. It's like, yeah, that kind of sums it up.
I wish Yoda, is there an AI that can make Yoda say that? Because I'll definitely remember that better. Sounds like something I would say, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all you.
Kind of reputation.
But so the flip side of that is thinking through that concept, like what things are you limiting yourself doing that are dumb and have no purpose? And it's almost like you create a brand due to that repetition unintentionally would be bad if it's not helping you or your company or your career or whatever, right? Like maybe that's the other version of like people who say like, I can't remember people's names. And so obviously you don't, because you keep telling yourself you can't remember people's names, or I can't speak Spanish, or I can't. Mm-hmm. But Jackie, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I think Andrew and I kind of got in this conversation a few months back where it was Gary Vaynerchuk all of a sudden started doing, I felt like he peeled back the curtain when he started doing the little doodles. What are those called? And it was like the art.
NFTs?
Oh, the VeeFriends. Yeah.
Yeah. And it just,
and I'm like, he's just scamming people. This is total spam.
So you kind of, I feel like you get a vibe of people too. And when they start associating themselves and deviating, and it's just, they pull back that Wizard of Oz curtain too far to reveal who they are. I think that's
that would be the negative version. I think
the negative version.
The positive version is, if you're like, everyone should be thinking about how they are continually reinventing what they're doing. Not everything, because if something's not broken, maybe you shouldn't fix it, but maybe you should, right? There's lots of things to think through in that, but that's what people who do feel like they have a brand have a hard time with. And actors are kind of the classic example of actors have and become a brand. And so Harrison Ford eventually just kind of does the same character in every movie he's in. He just might be holding a whip, he might not, but the way he talks is Harrison Ford. Yeah.
Or Morgan Freeman. I think we could all, Morgan Freeman's God, essentially in every movie, or that type of,
and so
like, character.
When you're reinventing yourself, if you have an audience that's focused on the brand or reputation you've created, you have to be careful how you do that, or else people will think like, they gone crazy. They lost their mind. What are they doing? They were doing this, now they're doing that. Versus slowly and strategically adjusting that.
Well, here's a good question to tie this to. Do you think a buyer, I feel like I've heard this said a few times, where like, this really isn't our typical product we build. It's not really our brand. We're in this size market. I don't think people think that whatsoever. A buyer's like, oh, usually build homes that are like 600 and 800s, a million. And all of a sudden you're building homes in the 300 and 400s. I personally don't think they're going like, oh, I'm judging you now. Like you're doing a mistake. Your nice home, your quote, nice higher priced homes are actually worse now. Am I wrong on that?
I think it's the internal over analyzing of what you expect of yourself. But when you realize that we're a product that people only buy every 12 years, I would hope you reinvent yourself every 12 years potentially to offer something new and not be that same like, oh, it's this same exact weird elevation A box house that Andrew saw at that community. You know,
yeah, I guess if they go that extreme, it's like Mercedes. They have their, I think it's C-Class is like their quote, their budget line. I don't think people, when they started the C-Class, it's now like, ooh, I don't want any of the AMG series now or the G-Wagon, whatever. Like those are now garbage because of the C-Class. They're like, oh, cool. They're making them more affordable Mercedes. It is going to be less than the more expensive ones, but it's still a Mercedes. I think that'd be the perception.
I'm conscious that every minute we talk about this, I'm removing another news article that we won't talk about. But I think this is good stuff. You know, Rivian, the Rivian CEO, Rivian's a electric car maker. Their SUV is, I think, $116,000 that they currently have released ish, and their pickup is also like close to six figures, if not six figures. They can only make like 10,000. So they have a capacity issue. Plus, his point was, we're going to come out with a less expensive car, but this is our handshake with the world. This is our welcome. Yeah. This is who we are. And I think to your point, Andrew, what's most important is which products you're continually highlighting as the overall handshake of your company to your metro area is way more important than you've got this one project that happens to be entry level. Like there's Go ahead. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just thinking about it, going the other way, I think that is an issue. If you are affordable and then you're trying to go up to custom luxury, then I think the judgment will be different. It's kind of like Hyundai Genesis. Like the Genesis, is that really a luxury car? People start like, it's not really a luxury car, even though you see the specs on it, you sit in when you drive it, you're like, this is a really nice car. Yeah. But you're like, it's not a Mercedes, it's not a BMW, it's not XYZ. So maybe it is only a one-way street where it's
generally a one-way street, unless as you move up, it's still an incredible value in comparison to the other thing. So if you're saying we're the Genesis and it's a $55,000 car and its specs are comparable to a $90,000 car, there's a whole slew of people who will say, I don't care. Like the specs line up.
You see them all day long.
They're value buyers, and in that case, like a value prestige buyer. But it's easier for builders to go down. My point is just, again, my time in Pittsburgh, we had a townhome neighborhood that was from, I think, the 150s, 160s when I first got there. And then we did $2 million homes on an acre on a lake somewhere, fully custom. We would never, ever run an ad of this one car townhome and put on it, Heartland's or Pittsburgh's #1 custom home builder, single car townhome product.
Could you imagine?
But the people who bought those townhomes felt great being connected to a company that most people thought of because of the imagery we intentionally chose to run in the ads as being the #1 custom home builder who built these amazing homes that you aspired to have and live in.
Makes sense.
So you shouldn't shy away from that. But the hard part is you get these opportunities that come up as an owner where there's a location that seems great, but it's got these issues with it that require a certain product that you don't normally build or something that you don't have. And
that's hard.
The rub comes when you misprice it or price it as if it was your normal thing. That's when things break. It's like,
that's where we're going. Why is there no leads? Why
is
this a challenge?
Builder in Charlotte
townhome
had a house, like they had 3 homes in one neighborhood. And normally at their size, 3 inventory homes, that would cause some consternation. They'd be concerned and they'd want to talk about how do we market these and get rid of them. In this case, every single one, she was like, oh yeah, well, that one would only fit our master up product. And this is a 55 plus neighborhood, but your bedroom's upstairs. So we know why that one hasn't sold. We'll just have to work through it. I'm like, okay, how about this one? Yeah, that's a 2-bedroom. Everything else in our neighborhood is a 3-bedroom. So, okay. How about this one? Oh, that one has no backyard and there's a retaining wall that you stare at out of your windows. Like it's 1 foot of grass and then a wall that's 8 feet tall. So it's like,
Yep.
I joking like, well, maybe we should just rename you Challenger Builder, Challenge Builders. Like everything has a challenge, but sometimes that's in really competitive markets. The builders just trying to make sure that they have opportunity of some kind in front of them.
Yep. Makes sense.
But yeah, all right.
Yeah, fun combo. I like it.
On to the news. First up, from doyouconvert.com. Our very own Becca Thomas wrote an article entitled, "Are you investing in sales or buying traffic?"
I like it.
And like, hopefully, to be clear, you're not just buying traffic, because buying traffic without getting sales will not work for you. Still, marketers sometimes they're like, "But look at all the traffic or look at all the leads." I'm like, "Yeah, you're not selling anything, so
Revenue.
you're still going to get fired. It doesn't. It doesn't matter."
You're still to get fired. But no, yeah, great article by Becca. Kind of really going through. It feels like a summary of the last year and a half.
Mhm.
Like here's where we were, here's where we are now, here's things you should definitely look at again. Going through conversion rates, call to actions, and of course working with your OSC, and then different benchmarks are in there. So it is a quick read, but I feel like if you are looking for a silver bullet, I think this could get your mind going as far as oh shoot, I did not consider that category of my marketing life for this community that I'm trying to troubleshoot. I think you find some inspiration in there.
Yeah, communication with sales, I think, is one thing that has broken down. Communication generally, you got more people working remotely, not spending as much time maybe in the field is what we call it. Get out of your home office or real office, but get in the field and interact with salespeople. And like she says, sit in on a sales meeting.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me how some marketers are like, well, what am I going to present? Like, you don't have to present. You can just go, and you're probably going to get a free muffin and coffee. So it's not completely lost. They always have snacks or something fun happening at every sales meeting. You should show up and just take that, sit down and listen.
Do you guys always have snacks? What is
My favorite thing was
sales.
we were selling a home, and it was a newer agent who didn't know my face. And so I showed up on the grand opening weekend pretending to be a buyer. And I just was sitting in the room, listening to them sell. And I was hearing other people buy. And I was like, oh, this really gave me great insight on what people are looking for. And even though this house was incredibly expensive, it was well, people were looking at slightly more expensive or slightly less expensive houses with a lot of work. So that was the value of this house. And then shifting that messaging in my marketing to kind of focus on that, move in, zero work needing to be done in this specific area where everything else was a resale of 50 years plus. Definitely helped me listen to and push that marketing message for that price point too. So yeah, thanks, Becca.
Yep. Good job. Next up from cbsnews.com. Facebook has 3 billion users, but many of them are old.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
All of them. And
not old they've been on the platform for a long time. They're old.
They're old because it started with college students. If you remember way back in the day, was it 06 or 07? You had to have a .edu email address. And then it went from there. And then the old people took over. I wonder what really causes that. Because in essence, all the platforms are quite similar. You post something, people see it, there's engagement.
Oh,
the algorithms are, as far as just they're all a vehicle. They all have wheels and tires and engines. But for whatever reason, the way people interact on Facebook and do things is catered towards the way this age group tends to want to digest content and interact with other people. Even Facebook groups are a bunch of older people. I'm in them. And Lindsay makes fun of me. She's like, what are you doing in this group? I'm like, I need to know what's happening locally 5 seconds down the road. Why would or the next restaurant? It's it's embarrassing. I'm 33, so I'm not super old, but I feel old. When looking in there, I'm everyone's 50 plus in these groups.
I think there's a thing too, when you're young, you want your own personal carved out space. And so it's kind of when your parents start getting into it, you're like, come out. And so I think it could also just be like, oh, well, that's where my parents communicate with my aunts and uncles. I don't need to be
Yeah,
there.
you know what?
They've got it.
Now they say that a younger person, or even me, I could care less now because I got the kids, but if we have like a family get together, and if a older relative references something a younger relative did on the internet, it is that you don't do that. Like, that's weird. It's like a faux pas. Like, what are you talking about? Why would you reference an Instagram post like a week ago?
My
It's
kids
just
are
weird.
so harsh on my wife, like so harsh. They just love to slam her, and she does pretty well keeping up with technology overall. But they have this. I mean, their favorite line is, "Mom, you can't do that."
I can't do that. Which is almost, this funny article talks about, it's the branding, right? When I think of Facebook, I think ugh, like Chugy, CHUGY, which who's ever heard that term ever outside this article? So I had to Google it, but even though I've heard it before, it is essentially things that we do as millennials or people older that are just like normal. So like, if you just type in Chugy and there's like Chugy starter kits, if you don't know what a starter kit is, then boom, this is what we're talking about. But even saying starter kit would be Chugy to people younger than me. So it's almost like the millennial pause. Like you're making a video and there's like this slight hesitation for whatever reason. So Chugy,
you definitely don't want to hang out. Like if I remember the last time that I went to a place where I knew I was the youngest person in the room, it was my oncologist's office when I found out that I had this blood clotting disorder, and every other person in the waiting room was on oxygen, in a wheelchair, or had like an uncountable number of wrinkles all over their body and like sun spotches. And I'm the only person in the waiting room that's like under 60. It's like, I don't want to be here. I mean, regardless of the context of the reason I'm there, I don't want to be here as a 32-year-old. So that's true. I think part of it is also the conversations that happen. Like, main reason Facebook's not interesting to me is the number of, people who want to yell about political issues or convince everyone, or it's so easy to share everything on that platform. And I think that's the other thing that to me seems true, is the amount of friction it takes to create a piece of content also changes the dynamic of who wants to be there. So Facebook, you can just type out, "Get off my lawn." Instagram, you've got to go take a picture of your lawn and say, "Get off of it." You got to get up off your butt and take a picture, or get a picture or save it. If you're going to go on TikTok, now you're probably doing video, right? And so that's even more like, I don't like how I look, I don't want to do this. Whereas younger people don't have that same friction. They're like, my kids have taken videos of videos since they were 2. Like, hold up the iPad and record Nick Jr. so that they can watch it in the car before there was such a thing as LTE.
Bootleg.
So hitting the record button is no big deal to any of my kids ever. Like, they've all learned how to do dances, like the gritty. I still don't know how to dance. I'm 42. So I think it's also that, like, it keeps old people out because there's more friction in what and how you're sharing.
Agreed. So,
and then there's this dynamic of, there was a period where you only connected on Facebook with people you knew, and then it felt rude to tell people no. And then you lost control of your network, and now you've got people on there. Like, every day I probably unfollow 2 to 3 people on LinkedIn. I'm like, I don't know who you are anymore.
Yeah.
You've moved away from real estate into, plastic sales or dog toys or whatever. Like, it's cool. I don't not like you anymore, and I still want to stay connected, but I'm not going to let you clutter my feed with, the cool new dog toy that your company invented. It's just not relevant. So I think you can make any platform still useful for you if you're willing to put in the work to train the algorithm or to curate it.
Yeah. I think there also could be, Facebook feels less anonymous than Instagram and TikTok. Like TikTok, you could just get followers all day long. That's what you want. Like, and Instagram, that's what you want.
Why do you want it?
I don't know, ego. Like,
I don't.
Let's see, which is, it is what it. You want more like,
I think Instagram feels
validation.
Instagram feels like more work nowadays than it used to, because it used to be like, oh, photos, and now they're optimizing for videos, and it's like, well, if I'm doing videos, might as well go to TikTok, where it's best to create videos and it's not a headache to create the structure too. So they also have just like a better user.
The reason I said, like, why do you want followers is I don't know if any of you saw the Snoop Dogg video about like the billion streams and not making any money. Oh, it's hilarious. It's not safe for TV. Like he's throwing out F-bombs, but he's at some convention where a bunch of media high up people are. And he's like, we got to figure out what the F is wrong with streaming. He's like, I get 1 billion views and I don't even make $1 million. Like, what the heck is up with that? Like, where is all the money? Show me the money. This whole system's broken, you know? And so if you create an audience, but can't convert that audience into buying a product or service from you, it's worthless. So the hope is, I guess, to try to build an audience big enough that then you can sell them stuff. But I feel like even we're getting closer to a tipping point where that even lasts for a less period of time than it used to.
Yeah. I think to rephrase what I mean is I think people are more willing to, let's say, just stick to Builder World. People are more willing to follow me on Instagram than they are to friend request me. Like that feels more personal, more like less anonymous, like that type of feeling. So you could just, and me, I'll follow that person. I don't care. Like they have a public profile. They seem to post. If it's like only family stuff,
we'll see if she listens to the podcast. But Rachel Peters from Keystone. Oh. She's great. Fantastic. She's one of my favorite people.
Yeah, she's amazing.
And then I realized we weren't connected on Instagram, and I'm just like, you have to hit the request button. And now you're right. You go through those things of like,
oh, is she done? Not
maybe
he or she going to feel some type of way?
Doing.
Like
maybe, yeah. So I requested. We're friends now. She's having a great time in Colorado hiking with her dogs, and I'm happy to see it. But there is that again, yeah. And I think that's also why I like Twitter is I can follow any person in the world. They don't have to let me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they don't.
All right. We got time for one more of these 4 that are left. Let's go to our AI corner.
Oh, there we go.
Maybe we can squeeze in 2 because this one's pretty quick. But from 10tv.com, which is my local news station here in Columbus, Wendy's partners with Google to bring AI technology to Columbus area drive-through. They plan to use the information gathered to potentially expand AI technology into more drive-throughs. I think they employ some like 4,000 or 5,000 people currently in the role of taking people's order.
Wow.
Or working as part of the drive-through. So there's this huge cost-saving initiative. They're going to partner with Google to use Bard and Google Cloud and all their technologies to let you just using natural language processing, say what you want. It'll show it on the screen. You'll confirm. Order will be sent to the kitchen. Now, the cool part is, me being in Columbus, I will do a live report on how this works. But what do we think about it?
I hope the live report also is you trying to break it. Because I feel like that's something.
I would like a cheeseburger with blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
See what it says.
I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. One second. Kids, you're being loud. Kids, I cannot hear. 1 second.
No, I don't want a junior bacon cheeseburger.
To like back and forth. And then they hear like, that's what I'm interested because we'll be 5 people in the car, sometimes going through a drive-through. And then what does it hear? Or maybe that's the point of AI. Like I'm listening for whoever, like it's probably like, welcome Wendy's, may I take your order?
Voice.
And then it's like, okay, it's listening for male and these frequencies, But sometimes I'll order and then Lindsay will take over ordering, or like I'll put my order afterwards and she'll order for the kids and herself. I'm like, oh, and I'll have this. And the human figures it out. They're like, oh, I see the Tahoe. There's 5 people there. Cool, let's go. Yeah. I think long term, I think it makes sense. Like it's a transactional thing.
I think you're right. I think it's good that they're testing it. Having worked at a drive-through was my first job, Tim Hortons, 130 cars an hour, I think was kind of the norm in rush hour. Their current setup is that it's going to show it all on the screen, is what they're prototyping.
Okay.
And you're just going to interact back and forth with this glorified chatbot, basically, to complete your order. And I'm sure they're going to say, please review and verify. You'll say, okay, Wendy's, submit my order or something to like finalize and say you're good. But I do have a couple questions. When the order is wrong, and Wendy's is saying, hey, it will do better than our average drive-through worker will probably do.
That'd be interesting.
It doesn't mean perfect.
Yeah.
And how do you complain or blame the chatbot for being wrong? And if you work at that restaurant and it's wrong a couple times, how quickly do you distrust it? Like, I think they're going to find out a lot of unintended things, which is the whole purpose of a test. So that's good. But just knowing humans, I could see, you order from that thing, you roll up to the window and the person's like, okay, so I'm just going to like manually confirm this again with you one more time. Is this your whole order? Is that right? And then they'll send it in, or they'll like, the workers will wait to start making your burger until you've been triple verified on the front end.
I'd imagine like modifications would be like, no, I told it I didn't want pickles.
Yeah.
They're like, and the
worker can still make
like,
it.
it's not on here. I don't know.
Yeah. I also think when I order online for certain things, it's like, oh, and we've substituted this. It's like, well, is it going to know right away that we're out of French fries? And so it's going to, like, I would assume it would, but I'm sure there's.
I would love to know from someone who frequently orders Chipotle through their app how you do that. Because I'm not a picky like I will just not take an item rather than try to be overly picky about how much of an item I want. So I don't think I'm like the worst case scenario of this, but also it's inability for you to have like the intricacies of, I just want a few black beans or one scoop of chicken, not two.
I don't think I've ordered that through the app on there.
Yeah, I don't know. But here's the thing I'm not looking forward to is the day when, I make a mistake in my ordering process and they say, no, we've got this footage and it's been triple analyzed by AI and you ordered the sandwich with pickles, so deal with it. Like that's just,
deal with it.
It's like the Orwellian future of too bad for you.
Yeah, that sounds awful. The last thing on that for me would be, I hope that it is, so my biggest complaint about Alexis, hopefully it doesn't trigger anyone's Alexis, is that it's like, hey lady, what's the weather? The weather is currently blah, 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 blah. And this versus just like, give me the answer really quickly. Like they have to add this like sentence structure or like, there has to be another word for it. Like this reassurance of what you just asked. Yeah. So if I imagine you have 20s, I want this, this, and this. Thank you. Like it should be like 10 seconds, right? I hope it's not like, thank you for ordering Wendy's to confirm your order. And it's just like this whole prompting thing that just takes forever.
Like they have to train us and then everyone has to learn their way.
Oh, okay. So I was talking about all the negatives. Here's one of the positives is if the language model gets to the point where then it shows you a visual representation of the burger you've ordered.
Okay.
And then the AI robots that are going to build the order can actually make it look like what you've ordered. Then we're talking about panacea. Like if I can say, no, add another slice of bacon and I see the bacon change and I'm like, no, I want one more. And then it actually comes out like that versus a big gooey mess of everything.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
That'll be pretty.
Because that's really the next step. All right, we have order taking is perfection, 99% perfect orders.
And now the making has to be perfect.
Now the making needs to be like, oh, why is that slice of cheese halfway off the burger? That's dumb. Versus using lasers to like.
Right. Yeah. So you remember the I forget what they call it, but Coke came out with their vending machine. That uses like printer ink cartridges like for the different flavors.
Freestyle or something? Is it
Freestyle? Yeah, Coke Freestyle.
It's embarrassing.
And their research showed that when that first came out, people would drive up to 2 miles out of their way, I believe, to go get a drink from a restaurant that offered a Freestyle because of that personalization. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, my daughter, Sydney, would demand that we go to any fast food that would let her visually see and change the amount of onions on a sandwich. Like the kid is a freak about onions. She has to have as many onions as possible.
As many? Oh, interesting.
So I think
strange.
And we've talked about this with builders on the product side, where the current trend, for many good reasons, is less and less and less personalization and more standardization. Fewer choices, more certainty. But technology is going to kind of, I think, upend that.
Yeah.
Where you're going to be able to have more flexibility in what you offer, not less.
It might be like Starbucks, where I have a pre-saved like Jackie's favorites and I just click it. And so I just, every time I want to go to Wendy's, I don't want to yell at the machine like, oh, I want one strip.
Oh, that's another great point.
I just want to go scan my QR code. Boop. That is what I
You won't have to do that. It'll know the car you're in. It'll know your voice. It'll know your face. And it'll be like, hey, Jackie, thanks for coming back.
I feel like every time I get on this, I talk about Minority Report, and I just feel like it's closer and closer.
These are all coming true. Yeah, I'd say the Freestyle. The ginger lime is the Diet Coke.
Do a live, do a live stream when you go, Kevin. I would, let's get some.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, that's it. I mean,
That's it.
here we'll still
sorry.
put the links in the show notes. Here's just a couple of the other articles we didn't have time for today. Quiet quitting the U.S. housing market. One group of sellers has completely disappeared from Fortune.com.
That one's
From
interesting.
Digital Information World, internet restrictions are on the rise, and here are the places that have been affected the most in 2023. So, like what you can and can't see. This is talking about globally, but like many things, trends often start somewhere else and then come to the U.S. So restrictions on what people can and can't do online, and kind of this idea of might there become, instead of one internet, 2 or 3 different versions of the internet with different access, different sources of truth. You can go down a rabbit hole with that one.
That is a rabbit hole. Mm-hmm.
And then the last one, which goes back to the affordability topic we've talked about a couple of times. Parents and graduate students taking on new student loans are about to experience the highest interest rate in over a decade. So interest rates aren't just affecting home buyers, they're also affecting students who will become the next group of home buyers, and they're going to have even larger amounts of debt than ever
Which
before.
to me, that you directly tie that to quiet quitting and looking at down payments, and yeah, it's all connected.
I know a lot of people too who
only so
haven't
much
been
money.
paying their student loans, and they're just like, this is going to be rough when they come back, if they come back. So that'll also, I think, hinder people's affordability for houses that we don't have a timeline for.
Yeah. Here's what we'll do for this week's question of the week. In All Access, we'll have a prize. Well, a good prize. We'll do $100 random draw.
For Wendy's?
That's a lot of Frosties.
No, probably for Amazon, because that's the easiest thing for me to send you. We might do a couple, but here's what I want to know is I want to know any one of the 400 people in All Access, if you are thinking about moving currently, and why. Like, what is it in your circumstance? Why are you considering moving right now? Or why are you not, like, you'd like to move, but you've told yourself we're not going to move? Just kind of our own version of the John Burns poll of, like, who is deciding to move right now and for what reasons?
Yeah.
I'd just be fascinated to know from our own group, because
I'm fascinated.
many of you probably are eligible or are getting discounts from the companies you work for if you're an employee. So there's still that. Maybe you are still being able to take advantage of buy downs. And so that's a good, like, it would just be the good and the bad. Why are you currently looking to move, or have you recently moved within like the last 6 months? Like, again, in our case, the only person I believe who's actively in the process of moving is Beth Russell, because she has to, because her husband's part of the military and they have to relocate.
Yeah.
And
And
she's doing
Josh.
stuff from
Josh
home.
is kind of moving because he's
Yeah.
out of renting, but I won't go too.
Oh, that's right. He's going from
far into
renting to owning, but he's
that.
going
Renting
to
owning, but he has cool. But he's in a market too that the prices are not like crazy.
they're not crazy, but he is
He
going to be
seems more
trading.
affordable.
He's going to be trading. He's going to be in a convenient location to downtown.
Mm-hmm.
But the finish of the home and the size of the home will probably be dramatically, like, it'll be similar in size probably to a really nice apartment.
Right.
Knowing downtown Pittsburgh product pretty well. So he's making that trade-off of, I want to get in on the ownership game, which is a great game to be part of.
Oh yeah.
But he's going to be making trade-offs for that.
Yeah.
But
And
that,
he'll be
again,
a
he's
landlord
young
at
and
the
he
same
can.
time. So
Mhm.
Yep.
fun
All
times.
right.
Cool.
I always do this. I close down my outro. Do I need an outro?
Nah, make one up.
Hold
the
on.
Spot.
Sponsored by Wendy's today.
Sponsored by Wendy's. Please don't send me Wendy's gift cards. I appreciate that.
It's probably been over a decade since I've had
It's been a
one.
long time. I'd go fries into the Wendy's, into the Frosty. That's where it's at. It sounds so.
Oh,
it's so
wait,
good.
favorites. Gosh, holy
That used
smokes.
to be a favorite.
We forgot about favorites. All right, quick. Everyone's favorite. Jackie, you first.
1913 product called Grandpa's Weed Eater. I can't bend anymore because spoiler alert, 7 months pregnant. Also won't be at the summit. Sorry. I haven't told a lot of people. So.
Seven-
But now
A
I can't
watermelon?
bend. Yeah, I have a watermelon.
Or two.
So now I use this tool. I don't have to bend. It's phenomenal. So if anyone also landscape goes to model homes or just wants a tool, it's called Grandpa's Weeder, and it's silly, it's simple, and it's phenomenal.
Grandpa's Weeder. Sounds
Grandpa's
good.
There you go.
I need one of those.
Andrew, you got anything?
Yeah. I don't know if I have one other than Nutella has been like on the menu for like 2 weeks now, which is not, I don't know what it is. My body's like, you need Nutella today. So it's been Nutella every day. So I'm on a kick with that.
Gross.
It's always food. Food is always
There
good.
you go. When I travel, and this might just answer some questions people have had about my Instagram stories. When I travel home from any trip for work or for personal reasons, I get gummy bears. And the best gummy bears still overall are Haribo. Haribo, I don't know how you say it.
My Turkish neighbor calls it Haribo.
Haribo, I like that.
No
It could
idea
be
if that's right,
Spanish.
but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, I'm like, what do you say it like that? I don't know.
But a close second, it's just you're not going to find them in most airport vendors, are Daryl Lee's soft Australian licorice. You can go Willy Wallaby if that's all they have. That's what I did last time coming back from California. But Daryl Lee, they don't have like the weird fake texture. It's just, and they come in all different flavors: mango, strawberry, black licorice if you're Swedish or Danish. They love their black licorice over there.
Have you sent them to us when Addie was in the hospital, the Haribo sour streamers. So I've had those before. I don't know if you remember, whoever picked them out and sent them to us. Amazing. They taste ridiculous. There's act like
I'm not
so
as much
flavor.
a sour person, but they're good.
definitely
I
sour.
also really
They're
like anything that has like the marshmallow plus gummy. They call them the Haribo
think
calls
I've
them the
seen-
gummy clouds or the gummy
white,
sharks or
half
the
of it's
gummy
white.
toads. Yep.
It's like
You never know what
creamsicle
you're going to
type of
get
vibe.
on favorites.
I just love that
That's
I'm
true.
the heavily pregnant one, and you guys are like food. It's all about the food right now.
Hope you're like
That's right. Does the world know that you're having a baby?
They do
They do
now.
now.
I know now.
I mean, 7 months.
What month
So-
are you due?
July.
July. So it's coming up.
I haven't
Jackie is
posted
the
anything.
best
I'm gonna see
secret
everyone. I'm
keeper.
telling people, and they're like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, you just see my shoulders." So
Yeah.
of course, I can keep it a secret as long as possible. It'll eventually be out, but
It's bound to happen. It's inevitable.
I think that's a good place to end. All right, everybody. Have a great week. We'll see you next time.
See y'all.